Introducing an all-new channel, JG9 News, where we talk about all things happening in the NFL that don't get talked about on this channel in a completely relaxed, unscripted format. Newest video is up, where I talk about the controversial endings of the Lions-Cowboys game and how the NFL can fix the clear problem at hand. So go check that out and subscribe. And now, on with our feature presentation. December 31st, 2023. It's week 17 of the NFL season. And as we're in the penultimate week of the season, we've got an interconference battle on our hands between the Seattle Seahawks and the Pittsburgh Steelers up in the Pacific Northwest. For the Seahawks, to say that this is a big game would be putting it lightly. In fact, it would be quite the understatement. The Seahawks enter this game with an 8-7 record, and the good news for them is that they control their own destiny. If they win their final two games, they're in the playoffs. And their final two games are against a Cardinals team that has 4 wins and that they beat earlier in the year, and a Steelers team at home that is on their 3rd quarterback of the season. So this should be a game that they absolutely can win. The bad news, though, is that things don't exactly start out that way. Pittsburgh looks the better side in this one, and with 7 minutes left, following a costly Geno Smith fumble in Seattle's own territory, the Steelers find themselves up by 7 points at the 16-yard line, already starting to strive in the red zone, and looking to make it a 2-score game. Following a short run by Najee Harris, Mason Rudolph tosses the ball to George Pickens, who makes a man miss before going out of bounds at the 5-yard line, making it a gain of 10 and a first down. Just bad defense by the Seahawks all the way around. And now, the Steelers find themselves in a first and goal situation, needing 5 yards to get to the end zone.
And now Pete Carroll has thrown the challenge flag.
Is being challenged by Seattle.
Wait, is that the challenge flag? Is that the challenge flag? What can you possibly be challenging here, Pete Carroll? Why are you challenging this? You think he stepped down before the first down line? Even if he did, it's an inch. Why did you possibly throw the red flag? Did you mistake it for your New Year's confetti? Why did you throw the flag?
Stands as called. It's first and goal from the 5-yard line. Seattle has charged a timeout.
Welcome to Dumb Decisions. Before I break down what happened here, this whole series is about taking an in-depth look at decisions made during games that were clearly awful from the start. This isn't something that looked bad in hindsight. Rather, this is something that looked awful almost immediately. These are moves where your gut instinct tells you right away that there is no way this can possibly work. And sure enough, your gut instinct was smarter than that of an NFL head coach. And for this one, we're going to take a look at the mind of Seattle Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll. I cannot believe the Seahawks might actually miss the playoffs. You were 6-3. You were in a prime position. And yes, I know you had a tough schedule, but you completely blew it down the stretch. And some stupid coaching definitely didn't help. You had what happened back in Week 11 against the Los Angeles Rams with some idiotic clock management, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. And now, you have this. Because I have no idea why on earth Pete Carroll would think that it was a good idea, of all the plays in the world, to challenge this one. We're going to do a risk-reward analysis in a little bit. And man, it is not pretty. Nothing about what Pete Carroll did in this game was pretty. Trust me, this won't even be the only time he's featured on Dumb Decisions in this game. But this moment in particular was absolutely not pretty. So with that being said, let's take a look at why challenging this play, where George Pickens was clearly past the first down line, is a really bad idea. And we're going to start with that risk-reward analysis. But we're going to do it under the assumption that this play was even the slightest bit close. The reality of the situation is way worse than that. But we're going to do it assuming that this was decided by an index card or something like that. That's how close it was. Suppose you do win the challenge. Congratulations. The Steelers no longer have a first down, as now they have the ball on 30 inches at the 5-yard line. Then you have 2 options here, neither of which are any good for you. Option 1, they pick up 1 inch. They get 1 measly inch, they fall forward, they get the first down, and the clock continues to run, which is not good for you. Or option 2, they get stuffed, in which case they'll kick the field goal, since it's a chip shot from the 5-yard line as a 23-yard kick, making a 2-score game, and that's not good for you. The only way that something like this actually works in your favor is if the Steelers get stuffed on 3rd and inches, go for it, and then get stuffed again, which I'm not even sure they would do, and which the odds of that happening, even if they did, are slim to none. Again, this isn't as though Pickens would have been 3 or 4 yards short of the sticks. This is 1 inch. Pittsburgh's offensive line had destroyed you all day. They ended the game with 202 rushing yards on 4.4 yards per carry. Heck, there was a situation earlier in the game when the Steelers went for it on 4th and 1. Mason Rudolph kept it himself on the sneak and got the first down. There was another situation earlier in the same game where the Steelers, facing 3rd and 1, just had Mason Rudolph keep it himself, and he picked up the first down. And if that wasn't enough, there was a third situation where the Steelers, facing 4th and 1, just had Mason Rudolph keep it himself, and he picked up the first down. Bottom line, winning the challenge changes just about nothing in a good way for you. Even if you win the challenge, you're not going to stop Pittsburgh from what's coming next. You're just delaying the inevitable. In a weird way, considering the clock, and considering that you just need to get the ball back, it's actually better for you if this is ruled a first down, because it means the Steelers have 1 less play to call and 40 fewer seconds to kill off the clock. The best case scenario if you win this challenge actually, to some extent, hurts you, because the Steelers will just sneak the ball, they'll pick it up, and they'll be able to run 3 more plays to kill an additional 2 minutes off the clock, which they would not have been able to run otherwise. Congratulations, Pete! You played yourself, because even if you got what you wanted, it would have been bad. And again, that's in the best case scenario where you win the challenge. In the worst case scenario where you lose the challenge, you just lost a timeout, which is absolutely critical, and you lost it late on the play clock too. You cannot afford to be losing timeouts like that at this juncture in the game. When you're trailing late in the 4th quarter, and you're about to go down by 2 scores, you cannot take silly timeouts. You need all the timeouts possible for later in the game. Timeouts are not just something to waste because you feel like it. You actually need those things. You're willing to throw the challenge flag to burn a timeout if the challenge fails, thereby costing yourself 40 seconds later in the game when the Steelers could play the clock or when you might need to mount a drive of your own, just so that if the challenge succeeds, you're in a similarly horrible spot. I don't get the logic here at all. I just don't. Did Pete Carroll think that Pickens stepped out of bounds and that would stop the clock? Because even if that was the case, that's a stupid explanation. Because he already stepped out of bounds, and the clock doesn't stop when a runner goes out of bounds until there's under 5 minutes left in the 4th. Carroll either didn't know the situation at hand, or didn't know the rules. I don't know which one is worse. I honestly don't know which one is worse. But all of this is with the understanding that the play was close. All of this is with the understanding that we have to blow up the image, use the super zoomed in camera, slow it down frame by frame, and bring out the polygons that they use on soccer broadcasts to determine if someone was offside. The problem here? This play was not even particularly close. Did you honestly think he stepped out of bounds before the sticks here? Did you honestly think that was the case at all? I mean, my God, there is literally green in between where Pickens' foot was and where the sideline is. He steps out of bounds at the 5, and the first down line is at the 6. It is not even particularly close. Even if this challenge was coming with your team up by 10 points in the 1st quarter, this is one of the stupidest challenges of the season. Never mind here, late in the 4th quarter, when you're trailing and about to go down by 2 scores no matter what. So just to reiterate, Pete Carroll was willing to challenge this spot at this juncture in the game, knowing the risk of losing a timeout, and knowing how late it was, on a play that wasn't even particularly close, on a play that would have moved the Steelers back 1 whole yard, and maybe even put the Seahawks in a worse position than they would have been had they just left this play alone in the first place. My head is spinning in circles. I just don't get it, guys. I just don't get it. After the game, a reporter asked Pete Carroll about this absolutely baffling decision to throw the challenge flag there. And folks, this is one of the dumbest explanations I've ever heard in my life, particularly for the final thing that he says. Said Carroll on the challenge, "We saw it upstairs first that he went out of bounds on the 7 or the 8, right in there. Then, We looked at it again and we thought, you know, in the quick little flash we get on the screen that we might have something there. And it would have been short. I think it would have been short of the first down. So that was the reason to take a shot at it. At that point, I'm not saving timeouts or saving the flag. I'm sorry, what? Never mind the fact that you didn't even know whether he would have been short of the first or not, saying you think. Never mind the fact that throwing the challenge made no sense here. You, as an NFL head coach, seriously just said with your team trailing in the fourth quarter that you're not thinking about saving timeouts? What kind of planet are you on? Timeouts are the most valuable thing you have. Timeouts are the most valuable currency you've got. Timeouts are your only way back in this game. You have to be thinking about timeouts. Really, you should be thinking about timeouts at all moments of the game, especially in a close game in the second half, but especially with 5 minutes left in the contest that you're about to go down by 2 scores in. And you just admitted that you're not? You just admitted that you're not worried about that? And that it hasn't crossed your mind? How can you possibly think that? How can you possibly admit that? Your justification for throwing this challenge flag boiled down to, we think it might have been a first or might not have been, but who cares? I'm not worried about timeouts. Unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. The Seattle Mariners front office this offseason has been more confident than you. And if you know anything about what they've done this offseason, trust me, that is saying a lot. I don't know about you, but it feels like this season, the Steelers have been the beneficiaries of some awful calls in terms of coaching, where the other team just forgets how to coach completely. You had what happened at the end of the first half in the Steelers-Ravens game, where John Harbaugh just lost his mind. You can learn more about that by clicking the card in the upper right corner. You had Zach Taylor with his idiotic decision to kick a field goal when that made no sense at all in the game between the Steelers and the Bengals, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. Of course, you had Josh McDaniels, the man, the myth, the legend himself, kicking a field goal down by 8 points in the game between the Raiders and the Steelers, even though there were 2 minutes left, because he thought it was a 2-score game. You can learn more about that by clicking the card in the upper right corner. And now, you have whatever the heck happened in the game between these two teams behind me right here. That Steelers winning record magic, whatever Mike Tomlin's on, it's got to continue somehow. So what do we learn from all of this? If throwing a challenge flag would result in you being in a worse spot if it succeeds than if you did nothing in the first place, then don't throw the flag. If throwing a challenge flag could result in you losing a timeout at a time where you absolutely need to save those timeouts, and the yardage and situational difference would be minimal at best, then don't throw the flag. The risk is not worth the reward at all. If it's the fourth quarter of a game, and it's late, and you're trailing, don't waste timeouts by throwing a flag for no reason. If you seriously thought that a play where there's plenty of green between the receiver and the white sideline was out of bounds, then you need glasses. And if you're not thinking about timeouts at this juncture, then you should be thinking about another line of work. Because when all of these elements are in play, you can't exactly be surprised when this play backfires. Talk about a dumb decision. Get your official Jaguar Gear 9 merchandise by going to jj9shop.com, and be sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out a lot. Join me every Wednesday night where we'll play NFL Trivia for cash prizes at 9 p.m. Eastern over on Twitch. To learn more about the history of college football, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To learn more about the history of Major League Baseball, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 7. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.